Psychotechnologies
Technology live.
live. Okay, guys, I want to share with you what we've been working on. We've been working on this new psychotechnology. As far as I'm aware, no one has done this before in this way. There have been things that are similar. Elliot's got a book he might pull out at some point that's similar. But we believe we found the connection between the material science of stress and psychological science of stress. So tech is still in progress, but we thought we'd just drop a little some teasers. So there are five in the physical sciences. There are five types of stress. Those are compression, tension or stress, shear or parallel strain, torsion or right angles, and bending. So if you see here, compression, you see all the directions essentially. The only little confusing thing I think that you might not know is shear versus torsion, which is essentially shear is you can see the stress is coming at parallel angles, and torsion, they're coming at right angles inside. Okay, so let's go through it, and we're gonna make this quick, a little teaser, and then we got to go back to developing it further. So compression. So throughout your day, throughout your life, you feel these different stresses. So compression, it feels like you're being crushed. So you ever like in life and you feel like the weight of the world is in your shoulders, you're being crushed. That's too much stress. That's too much compression. Like that's how that feels. When it's good, when it feels good, it feels like you're like the rock, right? So sometimes you feel like everything is like resting on you and everyone is relying on you. When you're in that good state, you feel like you're the rock. You feel like you're the thing that keeps everything together, like your family, whatever, the world, whatever. And then not enough of that if you're not having enough stress, because we all need a certain level of these kinds of stress in our life, certain amount of it, at least intermittently. You can feel weightless or ethereal. You feel like no one's relying on you. You have no responsibilities. It feels good for a while because that stress is coming off, but too much and you kind of just drift into the void, which is the thing you could do if you want, but a lot of people don't like that. The opposite of compression is tension or stretch. So that's when you're being pulled. So when it's too much is you're being pulled very thin. So I tend to think of it up and down, but it could be sides or however it is that you feel like you're being stretched out to the sides, that you have to do everything.
Your hands pulling in the other direction.
Yeah. Your kids, your
can't seem to hold both of these things apart.
Your work, whatever. You got to do everything, and you're just stretched out, like just all over the place. Good feels like that's when it's too much. When it's good, you can feel like you're tall, like you're stretching like up, like, okay, I'm not sure I can quite do this, but like I'm gonna reach for something, right? Like that reach, you get a stretch, or
that good feeling of reaching. Oh yeah, I can make it.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, it feels so good to get it. Like, oh, what a good stretch. Right? Or like you're like getting taller, or like maybe you're taking on more responsibility, like covering more things, more responsibility, but not necessarily like in that crushing way, right? Like not in that heavy weight, but in that like space that you can cover. And that's when it's good. And when it's not enough, it's you don't feel like you can reach anything. You don't feel like you're not growing. You feel like you can't like reach for the stars. You can't go beyond limits. You're just kind of stagnant where you are. Okay, so those are opposites. Now we got shear and torsion, which are very similar but different. Also, they have an aspect of oppositeness. So shear, which is parallel strain, so you have two planes and they go in opposite directions. So this one we think is more like time and pacing. So you have a sort of pacing that you do in your life when like if you're trying to stay on top of things. And so when things are there and everything is like right, but the pacing is wrong, and like you're like either everything is too slow and you're bored, so that's not enough, everything is too slow and boring, or everything is too fast and you can't keep up with it. So that's like too much shear or not enough shear, because you always want change, you always want to be moving, you always want things to be different. And so if everything is just the same every single day, then you're stuck in a routine and you don't get that shear force that like kind of stretches you and pulls you makes you stronger, and it gets really boring real fast. But if it goes too far, then you've lost the pacing, and then you're behind and you're always playing catch up. And good is when it's good, like when its timing is good, right? So that could be that could be a little fast, a little slow, right? Could be that your, things are like rapidly moving and it's exciting, or it could be like you gotta go slow and take your time and be careful with the things. So I think like if you're leaning in one direction or the other, like, oh, I wish things were more this way, or I prefer things to be faster or slower, like that's you trying to balance the shear forces in your life. And then when everything is just like on and you're just in flow, like then that's perfect. Don't even worry about it. And then torsion is similar, but it's like twisting. So when you get twisted, right? So like too much, you're getting twisted and you're being pulled in multiple directions and things aren't aligned properly. And it's like, oh, can't you just reach that thing? It's behind you, but your legs are going one direction and your body's going a different direction and your eyes are going a third direction and your feet are pointing, and like everything is just like kind of all over the place. And you just kind of start getting like things just like start smacking like into each other and like really, really pushing. That's torsion, right? So that's how it feels like to be in torsion. And not enough torsion is boring, right? You're just there and everything is just there, and like that's just it. And you're like, what's going on, right? Like you're missing all that internal excitement, right? It's internally exciting to be in torsion. And the good amount of torsion is when you're internally excited and it feels good and you're moving around, and there's like things happening inside you.
Well, it's also that like sometimes things need to untwist or unwind, and torsion will be exactly the right untwisting to help things unwind.
Right. So like the unwinding is moving back to the equilibrium, which can also feel good. These are more like descriptions of what's happening and ways to describe the tension that's going on versus prescriptions. We haven't like fleshed out all the little details on the prescriptions. So I'm not trying to come across judgmental. It's more just explaining what's going on. And then the last one is bending. So it's like when you're like, woo, you gotta like do all these things, or you gotta like kind of move your body in ways, but you're not like getting twisted. You're just doing it. So you're bending down to pick something up and you're going too far. That's like too much stress. So, or you're bending over backwards for people. And if you're constantly doing that, and then they're just like, oh, but can you just do a little more? Like you're bending backwards and then you're starting to go beyond what you're capable of. It feels like you're bending over backwards. You're going to get brittle, rigid. You're going to get very vulnerable as well, right? Like imagine someone like doing one of those planks, like one of those, what it's called, but like on their back, like you kick them and like they're in this like bad state, right? Like because you're bending over backwards, you're not able to you don't have that flexibility. And I think this is where it comes in, where this is like good is when you're feeling flexible. You're like, oh, I'm under the right amount of strain, or I can be under the right amount of strain, and you can be flexible and you can like exercise that part of you that's, oh, I'm going to move this way, I'm going to move this way, I'm going to reach there, like you're just like kind of like moving all around. I mean, all these are moving around, but this one is like specifically to all the way to one side, all the way to the other side. And that feels good. And then when it's not being stressed, it's like you feel like you're flexible, but there's nothing pushing it. Like you can't show that you can't exercise it. You can't live in a flexible way. You can't be flexible. That's when it's like you want to, but you can't, but you want to, but there's nothing to do. That would be like not enough stress. And you want to be flexible, but like let's say you want to or whatever in your head, but you can't because you're already at your max capacity. That's your max capacity. And you either gotta like not flex more, or you got to relax it more, move into this like more fluid state. Anything else to add, Elliot?
I'm suddenly worried that we've made a typology, like an astrological system, or like MBTI types. Like, oh no, a typology of different types of stresses. Like, oh no. I don't think we have.
Well, this will require further development, and I think as we flesh it out, if this resonates with you, leave a comment or let us know, because then it's easier to like work it out when we have more people with more examples. Otherwise, it's just, an idea, and you get to see our process of how we develop psychotech.
I mean, the other thing I'm thinking about is often things feel like an energetic structure, like ideas or the way that I care about stuff is kind of connected. And then if I care about these things in a connected string and then they start being pulled, then that's a tension, right?
Right.
If I care about things, but then they're all shoved together, that's a compression.
Yeah.
Like it's actually maybe the physical tension applies in the same way to the mental tension on an energetic structure. Like I care about my dog, but he's getting sick and getting old. There's like it's not that he's being pulled away from me, it's that there's something twisting about him, there's something different happening. And so I need to like, how much do I care about the dog that is getting older? Like, oh, I want to take care of him, I want to be kind to him, but it's like, it's not a pulling away or a pushing together, it's this, like, it's changing, which is more like the shear or the torsion.
Yeah. Yeah. And like change. Yeah. I think
And obviously I want to work out what to do on the psychological level with this experience that I'm having.
Yeah. Because I think like in life, like I have noticed this where sometimes I'm feeling both overwhelmed with stress and not stressed enough at the same time. And it's very
in different ways, right? This stress is pulling and this stress is twisting, and together
I think that's what this system kind of is starting to be able to do, is just like to point to the different kinds of stress and to be like, hey, I'm stretched too thin. Like right now, I feel like I'm stretched very thin, where I have a lot of things that I'm doing, but I'm not compressed. Like there's not a thing I'm doing that's like overwhelming. It's just there's a lot of it. And now I've gotten like that pacing down, but there's still like things inside twisting it. And bending as well.
All right, still in development.
Psychotechnologies live.